So, A Wrinkle in Time is a children's novel and science fiction story by Madeleine L'Engle that's now adapted by Ava DuVernay, two-time Academy Award nominated director of Selma and 13th, as well as being financed by the almighty Mickey Mouse, starring Oprah Winfrey, 2020 possible presidential candidate. This is a film with a metric ton of emotions writing it, both from the fans of the original book, fans of hardcore critical darling Ava DuVernay, and of course Oprah Winfrey's massive fan base. So let me try to assuage some issues in saying that, first of all, I did like a lot of Ava DuVernay's previous works, and I also was not really into A Wrinkle in Time. I had never read the original book because I just couldn't get into its prose when I was a kid, and I never revisited it as an adult. So I have zero attachment to this property, and I kind of went into this Disney production mostly blind, just to surprise myself and to see how this film would fare on its own merits. So let's take a look at that. We have our main character in Meg Murray, played by Storm Reed, a young girl who's becoming emotionally distant on account of the fact that her father, played by Chris Pine, has gone missing for 4 years. While he was in the middle of a massive astrophysical breakthrough that everybody kind of thought that he was a crackpot for. Nonetheless, she gets approached by a mysterious woman named Miss Whatsit, that would be Reese Witherspoon, who whisks her away on a journey along with her brother Charles Wallace and her love interest in Calvin, and advising her that her father achieved the impossible. He managed to teleport light years away through the power of thought alone. Now, this would be pretty amazing. Only problem is that he hasn't been able to find his way back. And the reason for that is because he's now trapped by the all-powerful It. No, not that one, not Pennywise. So that basically means that Miss Watson consults the help of her two partners in the Warriors of Light. They consult Miss Who, played by Mindy Kaling, and Miss Witch, played by Oprah Winfrey. Together, they concoct a plan in order to try to rescue Meg's father from the evil clutches of It, in using the power of tessering, which is to be able to teleport across galaxies through the power of love. Now, that might seem a little ridiculous and where you think I would not appreciate, but keep in mind, I've seen Harry Potter have magical spells powered by love alone, and I saw a raccoon, three aliens, and a human all manage to overpower a massive power energy source with the power of friendship alone. So, nah, I'm cool with it. Really, tessering using the power of love, cool. You can throw in some soft science concepts in there as well. Why the hell not? It works. It can be used in a nice sort of way to get kids excited for smaller, intimate projects involving science. At least it's not Interstellar that was supported through allegedly theories by Kip Thorne and decides to whip out the bongos and say, "The frequency is love, y'all." That is dumb. So keep in mind, A Wrinkle in Time is not dumb because it relies on the power of love. It's dumb because of everything else. First of all, on the complaint train, we have our main character. She's not likable, she's emotionally distant, and she's kind of an emotional blank slate for 2/3 of this movie. Up until the end, when you get a really good emotional core, you don't really get to know this character. Instead, other characters have to explain what her whole deal is, and that's not good writing. I don't know what's going through this lady's head, and I should know because this is my main character. She's the one that's basically supposed to be driving the plot, but instead, she's just basically yanked around the plot by various forces, namely the three misses, who all essentially tell her, no, you have to do this, or you have to do that. And if it's not them, it's her younger brother. Now, I've talked to people who have read the original book, and her brother is apparently accurate in terms of depiction, but for me, I'm not sure if this actor is either a prodigy or the worst kid actor I've ever seen because he is a maelstrom of energy, bouncing around from scene to scene and just basically doing that child acting pose and giving gravitas with every line of dialogue that he gives. Does it work? Does it not work? Honestly, I'm not sure half the time, but regardless, there are a couple moments in there where I have to scratch myself and say, hang on, weren't you directed by a two-time Academy Award nominated director? And of course, this is where I have to get to the part where many people are already bringing their pitchforks and knives and torches because I would dare say anything negative about Ava DuVernay. So let me try to calm those groups down and simply state that she still is a very decent director of actors with everybody else who's an experienced thespian. And she has a good eye for cinematography, even if she is still a little weak when it comes to computer generated effects, which honestly, for Critical Darlings, this seems to be par for the course. So I'm not going to hold that too much against her. What I am going to hold against her is two concepts that she had absolute control over, and it led to a bad product, namely the writing and the editing. See, the writing of this piece is all over the place. You have tons of underwritten characters. First of all, you have Calvin, who is completely useless in these proceedings. Is he meant to be a damsel in distress, a nice little inversion of the old stereotype? I don't know, because he doesn't really require saving all that much. And even when the film basically flat out tells you, oh no, don't worry, he has a function as a diplomat, that concept is completely thrown away and never once discussed at all or referenced in the entire rest of the movie. And this also, but he's not the only underwritten character. Besides Meg's complete blank expressions, you also have the mysterious witches, or rather, the misses. First of all, you have Miss Who, played by Mindy Kaling. And her whole deal is that she is evolved to a plane of existence that's so high she can't communicate in normal language. She actually has to use quotations of popular literature in order to convey what she's feeling. Now, on one hand, this would make for a very interesting writing challenge. After all, you basically have to have these kids figure out what the heck is she supposed to be on about, using various different clues with each and every quotation. But problem one is that the film decides to date it immediately by quoting Outkast and Chris Tucker. Seriously. And the other problem is that she decides to drop that act halfway through for no apparent reason, mostly because it was just convenient for the plot to do so. And it just felt like an almighty cop-out. Speaking of almighty, let's talk about Oprah Winfrey, who is discussed by all the characters to be the most powerful, most awesome, almighty Oprah. She doesn't do anything. No, I mean, she looks like a Dragon Ball Z character, but for the most part, she kind of does nothing besides give a little pep talk, and you're done. You're done. I imagine there were probably scenes that were possibly cut showing how awesome she was, and maybe it also would have explained what happened to Miss Who. Hell, it might have given us more explanation as to the fact as to why Miss Witch and Reese Witherspoon turns into a flying asparagus woman for no reason. And hell, we would have actually seen Calvin do some diplomacy. Maybe we would have learned that Meg had some real deep-seated issues concerning her father. Unfortunately, guess what? All of it was cut. And the reason I know it was cut is because this film is horribly edited. Scenes just basically blend into the other with no rhyme or reason. I mean, I slagged off Batman vs. Superman for this nonsense years ago, and time has not made it any better. And the fact that it's a children's movie does not excuse it. And the fact that some people are saying, like, oh, come on, what do you expect? You think kids are actually going to pay attention to this? First of all, yes, I do. And second of all, I'm not going to lower my standards over the fact that this is a kid's movie. I've seen tons of children's movies, from Paddington 2 to Coco to Lego Batman to Zootopia, that are all fantastic films in their own right, many of which made by Disney, and they did a fantastic job of hooking me in, the kids in, and they even had some really interesting things to say. And that is the unbelievable tragedy of this film, because this movie has something very, very powerful to say. It wants to talk about love, not just in terms of love for other people and your family, but love for yourself. It's about developing a nice, healthy sense of self-esteem. It's something that is so critical for young people to learn and to hear at their age. Hell, there are tons of adults who need to hear that message. But unfortunately, this is not the film that is able to deliver that message. It's so clumsily edited, it's so clumsily written that any sort of punch that was supposed to be had towards the last 20 minutes evaporates. And it's completely frustrating for me because I saw the potential, not just for the message, but even in your young actress in Storm Reid. She really gives it her all in major scenes that I was completely taken aback by. I was like saying, where was she acting for the rest of this film? This is your lead actress, and she is knocking it out of the park for 5 minutes, and then we lose that completely. Look, I'm not going to give this a low rating, partly because, like Tomorrowland, I feel bad for it. I feel like it was a film with tons of ambition, tons of potential, and the execution just wavered completely. Ultimately, I gotta give this a 2 out of 5 stars. Wait for it to rent this because you might actually get a director's cut with the extended scenes that show you precisely what went down in rather than the theatrical cut. But then again, the theatrical cut does move very, very slow, despite the fact that sometimes you don't even know how you got from point A to point Z half the time. I'm Christopher Jaramillo, and I'll see you at the lobby.